Good afternoon, my villagers. How are you all today? How are you all seriously today? That's a question I'm gonna ask you another question though. Have you all talked to your God and your ancestors today? You know, I can hear some of you say ancestors. That sounds like ancestor worshiping to me. No, no, that's not what it is. That's just reclaiming, getting yourself recommitted to your heritage.
Yes.
You know, there are things that's going on in our lives today that going to need additional what you call it.
They're like my spirit guides.
Right.
You know?
And you're going to need that affirming of yourselves. You know, when I first started this podcast, you know, that was my direct aim, was to try to restore something that has been taken away from us. But to that extent, I'm going to welcome you here today. We're going to talk about it later because there's a lot we got to talk about, because every week there's additional stuff that's going on, crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But in spite of it all, we know how to get through. We were always able to walk and chew gum at the same time. So we know we're going to get through. We got to talk about how we're going to do it, what we're going to do about it. But in the meantime, let me say I want to thank my crew. I want to thank Sheila. Just came back from a vacation.
Wow.
Oh, I'm so glad she's back.
I gotta get the details.
Oh, yeah. She had a great vacation. She and her husband, Joe. And I'm going to thank Juanita. She's not here with us today personally, but I know she's checking in. And, of course, I want to thank my promo crew. That's Elijah, Halim, and Chastity, and even Chloe. And then I want to thank my group here, the youth group that came with us. Of course, I want to thank Norm, King Norm.
Yes.
He always keeps it real for us.
Yes.
And keep us doing what we're supposed to be doing around here. Of
Yes.
course, y'all know me. I'm Ruby Williams Shivers. You're an unapologetic amateur. Still looking for those experts in Africanism.
Yes.
And we need them more now than ever.
Absolutely.
But what we're going to do, change the direction for a minute. We got a new sheriff in town. So I got to get some more direction. You know, when I first came on this show podcast about 2 years ago, just about 2 years ago, my direct aim, my purpose, sole purpose, if you will, was to try to bring on those people, and I call them experts, I call them specialists, because I call myself the amateur, and I am in terms of what I'm talking about, but bring those folks on that are going to restore us to who we were before they brought us over here 400 plus years ago. And that was very serious, because I still believe, unless we understand the seriousness and the implication, not just the implication, the direct result of what happened to a person who's been brutalized, unlike any other human being, over the years that we have, and particularly in one instance, and I'll talk about that later, we are different in that, uniquely different. So I'll always try to stress that point. Having stressed that point, I thought there was a special thing that we needed to do outside of what we would generally do, and that was try to restore us to who we were. And in restoring us, I contend it's going to take a little bit more than identifying what we went through. It's going to be, and I like to use analogies, and it's going to be like that pandemic that came in. When it came in, it just hit us so hard, so fast, so furiously, killed over 2 million people. We knew right away, without hesitation, that it was going to take a little bit more than what we had been used to dealing with viruses, right? The flu, the cold.
It was different.
Yes. So we had going to have to deal with it differently. And to make the analogy of what we went through, as a matter of fact, I coined the phrase African slave virus 401 is what we went through.
That sounds like
I coined the phrase.
correct.
So that means that if we think of it in terms of a virus, a unique virus, one that no one else has dealt with.
Right.
Now, you may say, well, there's other folks who've had a situation happening to them. You know, even enslavement.
Right.
You would talk about our Jewish friends who had the Holocaust happen. We talk about our Japanese friend, what happened with them, the encampment. We would talk about the Indians. We talk about,
what they did to
but
the
there's
Indians.
none who have done been have had what we have had done to us,
Yeah.
and that was the stripping. Remember that word
Yeah.
now.
Yes.
Stripping means that they stripped us of our heritage, our
Yes.
music, our culture, our drum, our religion,
Yes.
our everything. And when you
Yes.
strip a person of stuff that it obviously something tells you, without being a clinician, I have nothing to do with that. I don't know anything about that. But I do know common sense tell me if you've been stripped, you have to have been affected in some serious way.
Right.
Which means that we got to think about it from that perspective. We
Right.
can't just look at ourselves like other folks because we sometimes do, and that's the mistake. But I don't blame us for anything because I say I can't blame us when we've not been cured for what ails us. We've
Right.
been
Right.
identified because Dr. DeGrow, her book Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome,
Yes. Very familiar.
it identifies it very well, the problem, the trauma. But I want someone now to
we
find a
gotta
way
deal
to.
with the cure,
You just said it. So
so
until
that we can restore.
exactly to
and
restore,
get
to
back
back
to
to
who
who
we
we.
are. But you know what, Ruby? I think a lot of that is what this podcast is about.
Oh, that's what
Because
it's totally about.
as we remind ourselves of who we are
Yes.
by revisiting our ancestors,
Yes.
like you have always said,
Yes.
and remembering what they taught us and
Yeah.
all that, it will jar.
It will jar.
I'm hoping it will jar us spiritually.
I believe it will. But as I said before, that was my intent. That's what I came here for. But now that we got the new sheriff in town, I got to rethink. I got to bring on another important issue that we got to face at the same time.
Yes,
So it's a
yes,
two-pronged type of approach you'll be
Yes.
hearing me talk about now. In addition to the restoration of our, we call brain dirtying, now we got to fortify our community in a way that we probably not thought about recently. I mean, we're not all there, but at least we could breathe. We was at a point where we had folks in place that, not that they was as honest as we wanted them to be, but they pretend
Yes.
to have some legal laws on the book that will protect us.
Right.
That's
But
out
there
the
never
window.
was a
That's out
permanent-
the window now.
Yeah, that
so
was
that's
never a permanent
yeah.
situation.
So now we're in a different situation at this time in our lives that none of us have seen before. I'm from the silent generation, so I've seen a lot more than most of you have. But even from my generation, it was not like this because in my generation, at least we had the government who pretended to have some be on our side. So there were certain things they couldn't happen to us based on the legality. But the legal, everything is thrown out of the waters now, right out the window. So there's nothing that no one has obliged to do to protect us but we ourselves.
Yeah.
So when I talk about bringing in a second prong to the determination I have of how to get us back to who we used to be, I'm talking in terms of as the brother, the great ancestor now, Joe Madison said, "What you gonna do about it?"
Yes.
Used to be his favorite expression,
Yes.
and we need to know that now. There's
Right.
stuff. We're at the point now we're each going to have to figure out what we're going to do about it. One of the things we have to begin to understand, and I learned this long ago from my mom, who said, "Truth. You got to tell truth because the only result happens," she used to say, when truth is told out loud.
Right.
But I heard it recently, so I don't know who to give the credit to. Because I know my mom probably didn't develop that expression, but it makes sense. Truth is a panacea for a lot of things because it gives you the
It's the foundation of everything.
right, and it gives you opportunity to stand firmly on
That's
things.
right. You can stand.
Yeah,
on
you
it.
can stand on it because you tell them the
Because
truth.
principle. Truth
Exactly.
is like principle.
Exactly.
You can do whatever you want to
Yeah.
do. You're not going to change your.
And I'm going to pick up
truth.
on the quote that our dear ancestor, Dr. Martin Luther King, said, "Truth crushed to the earth will
Shall
rise again."
rise
And I
always.
believe that.
Always.
In spite of everything, I believe that truth
Always.
crushed to the
Always.
earth will rise again.
Always.
But in the meantime, we've got to develop situations around our situation. And we are in a different time now since, the what you call, I don't even like to call his name, since he took control, got us now into war.
Oh, him?
That's another thing. Him. Yeah. So now we've got to
The
think.
would-be king?
The king. Yep, the would-be king. We got to think seriously how to fortify ourselves.
Yes.
And I talked about there's four specific areas that we've been very skeptical about in terms of how we meet those situations in our community, and I'll name the four. The four were politics, medicine, armed services, and law enforcement, police. We've always had some reservations about these things, and rightly so. We have reason to have reservation about all four of them. We know in the politics, we know what that has always been a
Right.
very is not in our interest.
Right. Right.
We know in medicine with the Tuskegee affair.
Oh,
and,
my
and,
God.
and
They've
Donald-
always used us as guinea pigs.
Guinea pigs.
That's right.
We know in armed services that's not been good for us because when our men went to World
They
War
put
I,
them on the front line.
Front line when they came back, they hanged them.
And right.
You
In
know,
Vietnam,
uh-huh.
I heard a lot.
Law enforcement, we see how the police affect our particular
Right.
young black men
Yes,
and our
they
women
target
too.
them.
But they target them.
Yes.
So we had legitimate reasons for fear, but we got to rethink now.
Yeah.
We got to recalibrate that stuff
Because
and say
ICE
what
is
can
a
we,
whole
how we
new
do,
baby.
what can we do to bring it under that it will
Counteract
fit.
it, right, and counteract
Yeah.
their
Counteract.
their
Yeah.
attacks.
Attack in health and like medicines. No, many of us didn't take. Well, I won't say many of us, 'cause I don't know that. I know some of us didn't take the shots when the pandemic came because we had questions about that. We were curious and we were skeptical.
Right.
Well, I understand that. But we got to rethink that. When we rethink it, thinking in terms of, well, you take the Tylenol, you take other kind of medications that those same people that you may be afraid of, they
Right.
make.
Right.
And in order to save our community, we got to kind of redefine what it is exactly that might be in our heads that will create that kind of skepticism. Well, and of course, like I said before, we know what it was. We know what has happened to us in the past. But since we have our own people sometime in the midst of all this now,
Right.
we have medical people, black
Right.
people who are in the field. So we have to consider it from
And
that
understand
perspective.
that discipline.
Yes, armed services. We have, rightly so, we was always skeptical about sending our boys and things
Yes.
over to service because
Yes.
we know what happened. We know history. We
Right.
read about what happened in World War I and other places
Yes.
when they went and fought for this country and came back and was
back to
hanged.
nothing.
But we got to rethink that. We need people in those places.
But disrespect.
Because when Trump talks about sending people into our community, we got to make sure that we have people around enough so they may not just adhere to that kind of dictation.
Right, right.
So, and the other one is I talked about the politics. Well, we talk about politics, and rightly so. All of this is legitimate concern. But what I'm saying to you all, you got to rethink how to get in this stuff and make use of it. Politics, I had some politicians in last week.
Mm-hmm.
I do that deliberately because I know now that we're going to need that. They say all politics are local.
Right.
Well, we certainly going to need people to the extent
Right.
that we can.
This is true.
Yeah, to get our community better.
And our voice is heard.
Our voice is heard.
They are our voice.
Yeah. One of the things before I get off politics, we're going to have to again with this truth thing. We're going to have to know truth when we see it and speak it. Trump stole the election, and I don't understand right to the day why we're afraid and hesitant to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Because they say change come when truth is spoken out
Spoken,
loud.
it was spoken
Well, if
out
you
loud.
speak out loud that he did it, otherwise he's going to maintain his presidency for as long as he wants it. Because part of what he's doing now is to do that.
Yes.
He's starting this war. And I don't know the government that well or the politics, but I understand that when that happened, that he has full reign to maintain his presidency.
I
as long as the war
something
was
about
going
it,
on.
but I don't know
Yeah.
if that's entirely true.
Hmm. Well, but even if that's not true, Trump will be able to maintain it. He does things that no one else thinks about doing. So even if that is not true legally, he will stay in office as long as he wants, unless we call him on the steal.
Right,
See,
right.
no one has ever called him yet. But I've been hearing rumors now.
Yeah, I have too.
I've been hearing rumors now. But that's
too.
what we do as Democrat. We talk,
But
under
we
our
need,
tongue.
like you said, a strategic
Yeah,
plan. to
and need to
address
be as
it.
loud as they are. See,
Right.
they lie loudly.
Right,
We
right.
could tell the truth loudly.
Right.
That's what needs to happen. We tell
Right.
the truth loudly. They lie loudly.
Right,
But they
right.
get by with whatever they're doing.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And the last thing is law enforcement. There was a time I know for myself when we talk about people joining the police force, that was a no-no because we knew the history. We knew the history of how that affected us.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to get involved because it reminds me of a situation some years ago. I was working for this company, and I was my office was right outside the office of the manager.
Mm-hmm.
I heard him. He was in with some other managers. of
Okay.
his.
In the
They
meeting.
didn't think I was listening.
Right.
But I heard one say about the reason of so many black people are in jail, the young black folks. At that time, I think it was in the 80s, that when our boys were going to jail.
Yeah, a lot.
Drug-
Yes, definitely.
And this guy
80s and
said,
90s.
he said, owls don't go. Now, that's a white guy. He said, owls don't go to jail like that because we sometimes know the officers.
Mhm.
Officers know us. The judges know us.
Yes.
And if they see my son, they'll say, that Jim's son.
Mm-hmm.
And so they give him a break,
Mhm.
but they don't give black kids. And so we
Yeah.
have to understand all that as clear as they understand it. Sometimes we point the fingers at ourselves and think that we are the culprits. That's not always the case, and
Yes.
probably more than likely never the case.
Yes.
It's just that's the shape we're in. That's why I say we do need policemen patrolling our neighborhoods the same as they patrol their neighborhood,
Yes.
because then when they patrol their neighborhood, it becomes like a family affair.
Right,
They
right.
know each other.
And that's
Yeah.
important because
That's
that's, the way
very-
it was when I grew up. A lot of the
Yeah,
fathers were
yeah.
police officers.
Very important.
And they took care of the
and they took it.
neighborhood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I have some a couple of incidents to talk about in terms of that, because I know when my son was a policeman, he was a policeman for years. He ended up being a lieutenant, I think at that time,
Okay.
the youngest lieutenant in Plainfield.
Right.
He retired now. But when he got on the force, I was just so outdone, because that, particularly in the 80s, we just didn't want to hear nothing about people being on a police department.
Mhm.
But then he got on, and obviously I had to start to rethink the situation, looking at it from a different perspective. But there was incidents that happened to me, and I got to tell you about the one or two. My nephew
Mhm.
had come to live with me. His parents had gotten into this terrible accident, and he was left
Mhm.
to live with me. And he had bought himself a Cadillac, a convertible Cadillac.
Mhm.
Now, my sister, my deceased sister, the ancestor now, Lula and I, and him, we had gone into Elizabeth. On our way back, just as we entered Plainfield from Scotch Plain, we were stopped by policemen. There was the siren. Whoa.
Mhm.
I looked up, and there were these two white policemen, a female and a male. They get out the car, and when they got out the car and came to our car, apparently they had called for backup, because there was a second car that came up on the scene.
Mhm.
The second car came up. There was two black policemen.
Well, why'd they stop you?
Well, there was two black policemen. The black policeman came to the car, came toward us, and came to us because it had just began to rain a little bit, just a few dripples.
Mhm.
And he said to us, the young man said to us, he said, "Oh, look like you're getting ready to get wet." And it's the black policeman. And we looked, and he said, he went back to the two policemen that had
Mhm.
called
Called
him,
them.
the white policeman. And I heard him say, "Is this what you called us for?" And when he said that, he came back to our car. And he said, "I think y'all better put that top up." He said, "You have a great day." Just like that. He didn't know me, I didn't know him, but he knew who he was looking at. We left. That was the incident that
So
we...
you don't even know why you were stopped.
Don't even know. But he knew it didn't look like nothing, and I guess they must have told him, well, they pulled over him us for whatever reason.
Right.
But to him, he knew it was no real
Profiling.
reason.
That's what it was.
That's what it was. Profiling.
That's what it was. Let's call it what
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
'Cause,
And then
they're notorious for that.
yeah.
In South Plainfield too.
Yeah. Well, another incident happened. That I was my sister Lula and I was riding again, and I turned there on Second Street. For those of you who know Plainfield, you know, right in front of the police station there on Watchung and Second. But as I turned in, there was a bicycle coming in front of me. And I kind of had to swerve, but the police in back of me, I guess, didn't see it, or they were on, you know, wherever he was. And I looked up, there was a police behind me. He stopped me. And he said, what are you doing? And I said, well, I was trying to get out of the way for the bicycle.
The kid on the bike.
He didn't see the bicycle, something like that. And then he said, ask for my ID. And I'm going into my glove. I went into the glove compartment. I couldn't find it. I'm just rumpling around. I was getting nervous. See, that's what it was. I was
Right,
nervous.
that's what happens.
Police
That's what happens.
on my back, and I'm nervous.
I do the same
yeah,
thing.
and my sister, she looked in there, and she was looking for it also. And I looked up, and I couldn't find it. So I said to him, I don't know why you stopped me. I was, I was trying to get out of the way of the truck. And he said, if you stop talking so much, you might find it.
Were they black or white?
You're black. I'm saying. I'm telling you the difference.
That's right. Yes.
He said, if you
Yes.
stop talking so much,
Yes,
you might find
yes,
it.
yes.
And then at that time, I found it.
Mm-hmm.
And when I presented him to, he said, "Oh, you all drive safely, and I have a great day."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Thank you." About an hour later, my sister and I went to my brother's house across town. My brother's house. We get out of the car and we look up, and this police is coming toward us, but he had apparently come from an accident. But he was walking in that direction to get into his car. And when he looked up, he saw us. He said, "There you two again." I thought that we laughed because that's the kind of communication
Right.
that you have when you know each other,
Right.
when
right.
you're from the community.
Right. But we have to learn to do a little better too.
No, I'm saying we remember my first objective to the podcast is to clear our brain.
Right.
So always think about that when we say
Right.
we have to do better until we are clean or
But
cleansed of that.
recognize who's coming up against us.
Right, exactly.
That
And
is
that will
important.
come. That will come.
Yeah.
But it's going to be through the process of restoring what's been taken away from
Right.
it. Because just think about it. That's two incidents to show you that I didn't know any one of those, but
Right.
they're
The
the
difference
connection.
in the approach.
The connection,
Yeah.
and they felt the connection. What I call the village connection.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
You said
So
it right.
what I'm saying is, once we get that clear, we won't find so many of the Clarence Thomases around.
Right.
We won't find so many of those who don't recognize us as one of them.
Right.
We'll look at each other in terms
Right.
of the community.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So that is just one of the two of the things I want to bring to my villagers' attention in terms of how we got to get back to all those things we're skeptical of. We got to know how to use them.
Yeah.
We always can remember we can walk and chew gum at the same time. In addition, we can be skeptical and also be discerning at the same
Right,
time.
right,
There's
right.
nothing wrong with that. It's just that we know we got to use some of this stuff to
Right.
get to where we need to be.
Right.
And if we look at it like in that manner, then we won't be so hesitant.
Right.
You
But
know.
we got to stay a step ahead of
Yeah,
it,
got
too,
to stay a
Ruby.
step ahead
You
of
can
it.
tell who you're dealing with
Mhm.
when they step up to the car.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got stopped, I think, in Boundbrook
Mm-hmm.
by taking a neighbor to work, doing him a favor.
Mhm.
I get stopped in
Mhm.
Boundbrook, this
Mhm.
raggedy road,
Mm-hmm.
and the police officer stopped me, and he said, and I flipped the script on him because I come from a police family.
Mm-hmm.
So I flipped the script on him, and I said, "Excuse me, young man.
Mm-hmm.
I can see you're a rookie,
Mm-hmm.
and you're on third shift." Right away, I brought him down, but very lovingly.
Mhm.
And I said to him, "Why did you stop me?"
Mm-hmm.
And he said, "Well, you were swerving." I said, "Yes, I was." And he said, "I thought perhaps you were drinking." I said, "I don't drink, but
Mhm.
you're right about the swerving.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching you swerve,
Mm,
Did you see that raggedy road?
mm,
I didn't want to mess up Michael on that raggedy road. So you see what I'm saying? So right away, I de-escalated
mm,
whatever game he had in his mind to play with me,
mm.
respectfully.
Yeah.
And then I gave him my credentials, and he says, "Okay, ma'am, leave." We
Mm-hmm.
have to be on to them. We gotta be wiser than them.
And you're absolutely right. But in the meantime, but what I'm trying to say to my people are the part we got to play for ourselves. Like our ancestor Joe Madison said, what we're going to do about what we're in. We're still going to need to deal with them in manners like you say, hopefully, prayerfully, that we
Right.
can come out alive. But
Right.
I'm saying now, so we can reclaim those areas that we need to get back into so we can protect our community in a way
Right.
that maybe it was not required before. It's been always required. We just have never been in the situation we find ourselves in today. Now, we have been in terrible situations. We were enslaved, but in slavery, you had no power.
Right.
That was automatic. You just was there.
Right.
After slavery, Emancipation Proclamation was a little ease,
Mm-hmm.
Then we realized right after that, when the Ku Klux, what you call it, I don't forgot the period you call it, but it appeared right after that where then they rescinded whatever they had offered us, and the Ku Klux Klans and other people came in. But at that time, the government pretended that they were on our side.
Right.
So
and
we
they
always
weren't.
sort of had something
Right.
to go to after
Right.
slavery.
Right. Right.
Now, the government, the culprit.
Yes.
No pretense. There's no
Right.
pretense that you
Right.
got any kind of
Right.
right that
Well,
they
they're out
need
in
to
the
implement.
open now. They
Yeah,
were
open.
behind the
So
scenes
it's a
before.
whole different scene
Yeah.
now. And being a different scene, as I said before, when I first came aboard the podcast, my main concern, and it's still one of my concerns, it's just one of it now. I got two concerns now. My main concern was that the restoration of our brain cell, to get them back to who we used to be. Because if we don't know our history, if we don't know who
We'll
we
repeat
were,
it.
right, and if we don't know who we were, we'll take anybody else's advice as to who we
Yes.
were.
Yes.
And I was watching, I don't know if you managed to watch that movie yet,
Which one?
Sinners.
Yes.
It's a lot to it, but
Of
there's
course.
ways to get beneath it because
I enjoyed
they
it.
got information. I didn't understand it that
Very
clearly.
symbolic.
Yeah, symbolic.
Very
The
symbolic.
nuances there, but there's the YouTube got. You can go on
Yes,
YouTube and they will
and they'll
try to
explain it.
explain it,
Yes,
which is a good
yes,
thing.
yes.
But what it does, it gives you an idea of the things that we traditionally have shun away from. Rightfully so. We've been taught how to hate each other, how to hate ourselves, how to hate whatever we do. And we're understanding now they took everything you see worthwhile from us.
They stole it.
They stole it.
And they still stealing it.
Still stealing it. And if we don't understand that, that's why when I first came on and I was talking about, what did I say, the ancestors. See how they have used what we brought over here and trying to
Claimed everything.
claim it. And it was interesting because I had heard the term before about what is that medicine? What they call it when they was out
The
there?
voodoo.
Well, the voodoo, but the medicine, the medicine men that used to go around and sell medicine. But see, the white folks were doing it at that time. But they was taking it from our information around the voodoo, what they call voodoo.
Right.
You know, uh-huh.
The sages.
Yeah,
and,
and then they call it, I forgot the
The
term now.
Indians, they called the medicine men.
Yeah, I forgot the term now they used. But anyway, and it elevated from there to what they call the pharmaceutical places.
Right.
They just got another name,
Right.
dressed it up,
Right.
but it all from where we came over here and did medicine
Absolutely
from
right.
our the herbs and stuff like
Right,
that or whatever.
right.
And if we're not careful, we'll then denounce what we're doing. Same as with like the talk about when I brought on the subject of the ancestor. A lot of folks will say, well, ancestral worshiping. Well, if the Catholic Church with their saints, if that's not ancestral worship, then what we're doing is not.
That's worse than
Yeah,
ancestral.
but I'm saying that's their ritual.
Yeah.
That's part of our ritual. And even with that ritual, they took everything any of these organizations, these concerns, what's going on now came from us. They may have bastardized them in a way, or recreated, or tried to reframe it to a point.
Right.
But it all it's like the
It's all the
music.
same.
This is Black Music Month.
Right.
And if you think about it, I was watching Centers, and they was talking about how the music, the blues, everything emanated from the blues.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
and then they redefined the different genre, but it's blues.
They redefined the genres, but it was still the same origin.
It's still the
You're
origin.
Right. You could trace it back.
You can trace it back.
Yes.
And so it's interesting that we have to get to know those things in order for us to appreciate who we really are.
Absolutely, Ruben.
And that's that was my objective when I started the podcast, and I thought that was the most serious thing in the world for us to, and it is one of the most serious things for us to reclaim that they've taken away from us. But now, because we do have the new sheriff in town, we just got to do the two-pronged thing, got to be just as serious about reclaiming or trying to fortify our community in whatever way we can, and because that is very necessary.
Yes. That's a good word, fortify.
Yeah, very necessary.
Because he wants to just be able to infiltrate it
Yeah.
and further divide us up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the ways we fortified is by learning our history. And we got something here, Rose, you and I brought you. I'm so proud of you, my co-host here. She is the instructor for our group here that's learning their history.
Yes,
And they're
they
doing
are.
a good job of when they learn it, they're going to try to share it with as many people as they can. I'm learning a lot from their learning. And I brought the group here today, and Rose,
I'm so
you are
proud
the
of them.
instructor. You're going to take over and tell us what happening
I
here.
am so proud of them. I'm not even going to take any time away from them because I want them to present. I want our audience to know how awesome these kids are.
Yes,
And
yes.
how smart they are. And they are learning in order to share.
Yeah, that's what
They're
it's about.
not only sharing with their peers, but they're sharing to all the villagers.
Yes, that's what this is all about.
I'm a firm believer in the youth have to teach the youth.
Yes,
Those where the leaders have come from. And these are the forerunners.
yes.
These
yes,
are I want to introduce the co-host and leader of them all, and that is Elijah.
Mhm.
And we're eventually going to turn it over to
Okay,
Elijah and
yeah.
let them do their thing.
All right.
And we stand
Elijah.
behind you. Do your thing, young people. Stand up and let the world know who you are and let them hear the voice. Because we're going to be your ancestors soon, and you'd have to carry what we started. So do your thing.
Habari Gani. I am the woke one, Elijah. You know, last week I told you that we have defined ourselves as the woke generation. Why? Because we have been awakened to our history. My late Aunt Meme was very serious about homeschooling, and my Nana here is very serious about us learning our true history. And that's what we are doing. The students from the homeschool, Williams of Cubalon, Culture Academy of Plainfield, will be bringing you information at the end of each month. Today, I have 4 students with me today. Chastity, Awakim, Halim, and Munchie, to give you a hint of what to expect. Chastity?
Africa, a story of civilization unfolds. Shaped by ancient cultures and natural wonders, the origin of African can be traced back thousands of years from the Nile Valley River to the Rift Valley. To the birthplace of humanity has witnessed the rise and falls of mighty empires.
Wow.
Munchie?
In 1960, a wave of independence swept across the continent as nations emerged from the colonial rule.
Excellent.
Very
Halim?
good.
Today, Africa stands as a diverse and vibrant continent, rich in history, culture, and natural resources.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
This is an introduction of what we will be presenting this Monday, June 16th. We
No,
will
that's
be
June 29th, I
sharing-
think.
Yeah, June 29th, baby.
Okay. This is an introduction of what we will be presenting. Wait, I'm sorry. This is an introduction of what we will be
Presenting.
Presenting.
this Monday, June 16th. We will be sharing many of Africa's inventions, and please be sure to tune in the last Monday of each month
Yes.
to May May's Den for our history, and please share, like, and encourage your young people to watch.
Very good.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, those are our young people, and they will be presenting each Monday, the last Monday of the month, and they were just letting you know what you can expect
Yes.
this Monday coming up. And we're going to definitely be looking forward to that, and just encourage your peers, your friends, to watch it, and because that's what it's all about. Got to learn our history. At least we perish for lack of it. That's for sure. So, Rose, what do you got on the agenda?
For the young people?
Oh, yeah. For the
Well,
young
we're
people,
going to
for
be
yourself.
we're going to examine all the awesome inventors.
Okay, that sounds
We
good.
want our
there's a
villagers to
lot of
know
them,
what
yeah.
we have invented so much, and do you know a lot of people don't even know?
That's right.
Like we invented the traffic lights.
Oh, sure.
A lot of invention, a lot of the technology that we use today
Mhm.
were invented by black people.
Yeah, in this country.
And young people in this country.
Right, country. And not even talking about what was invented in Africa. That's what they're going to be talking
Yes.
about next week, how the inventions that was created around Africa that the people don't even want to admit to, but they got to because it's all in the history book. Not the, well, the
Absolutely,
history
they
book
were
we
the
got
first
to.
writers,
Yes.
mathematicians,
Yes. Mhm.
physicians.
Yeah.
They did brain
Yeah.
operations.
Yeah. Mhm.
They were fantastic builders.
Yes.
And we're going to learn the great minds
Yep.
that have been transferred throughout the generations.
Oh,
so
yes.
that perhaps we can wake it up.
Yes.
Wake up
Yeah.
those talents that
Yeah.
are dormant in us, because we come from a great people.
Yes.
And our young people are going to demonstrate and let you know what fantastic and inventful, creative minds, awesome minds that we have come from.
Yes.
They're
yes.
each going to have a little segment that they're going to do and
Mhm.
enlighten us of who we come from, the great
Mhm.
minds and all the inventions.
Yep, yep. That's what we're going. And we're excited about
Yeah,
it.
I'm
because,
very excited about
I
it.
tell you, they are excited.
And
about it.
I'm
That's
learning.
What excites me too.
I'm learning from them.
Yeah. And getting back to us as elders, we got to be we got to voice what we know is truth, and be stand firm on it.
Yeah.
I was listening to the radio just before I came here,
Mhm.
and it was talking about what's going on there in the Middle East and how things are unfolding.
Yes.
It's kind of scary. Not
It
just
is.
kind of scary. It is scary because anytime you messing around with the nuclear things,
Absolutely.
anything can happen. And with this man at the helm, he don't have the sense of a flea-bitten roach, as my mother was. Start using her terms now
He's
to
an
maybe express.
arrogant narcissist, and I
Uh-huh.
don't even think he's in his right mind.
I
Does he
don't.
know
You
if
don't think?
He's
I know
playing
he's
with
not.
other people's
Yeah.
lives here,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
trying to intimidate like
Yeah.
he's a king.
Exactly. And this is the time, as I said before, not a time to be silent on anything. It might be comfortable, and you might think it's safe. But have we come out when? When we come out when Trump stole this election, we may not be in the position we're in now, but we were just either too chicken, or we're still suffering from their truth is the truth no matter what. But silence silence, because I'm from the silent generation, that was a pre-existing condition that we had to adhere
Yeah,
to.
people were afraid.
Yeah, afraid to, to say, the truth is the truth, but if the white man said the truth was a lie, you had to say it was a lie. We don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
So we have to stand firm on what we know. And if we know the man stole the election, first of all, let's be real. Why wouldn't he?
Right.
I'm not the smartest person in the world. I take a quote from Sigmund Freud, I think is the one that said,
Well, what is
He said, I'm not so smart. He just curious. Well, we knew he
Yeah.
was smart, but that's what he said. So I can use that seriously.
Yes.
Not
yes.
so smart. I'm just curious.
Yes.
And if I'm curious enough to say, if I were, if I was looking at what he was looking at, which was jail term and the loss of money and a whole lot of other stuff, why wouldn't? And I'm not honest in the first place.
Right.
He was nothing honest about it.
Right.
So why wouldn't he take advantage of what he had? And he had the three most powerful things in the world to do what he needed to
He
do.
had Elon Musk
He
money.
had much money, and he had the KGB man who knows all about
Right,
how to
right,
undermine
right,
stuff.
right, right.
And then he had the racist white folks who the majority of the population
Rooting
in this
for
guy.
him, but he had distractions.
yeah,
too. There
uh-huh.
was a lot of distractions, and people don't realize
Mhm.
AI.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
why these young people. We're going to do a segment for you on AI. We have got to understand this artificial intelligence because I believe that Elon Musk used
Well, I don't really believe,
AI.
I don't have to be a rocket scientist
Exactly.
to know that if you have that available to you, why
Not
wouldn't
use
he?
it.
Matter of fact, I will give Trump credit for this. He said it.
Right.
He said what he was going to do the first day,
Right.
going to be a dictator. He
Right.
said there was no need for another election. So he made it very clear
Right.
his intent.
Right.
We just
Right.
didn't want to
Well,
listen to
somebody was listening. There was
Yeah.
a guy that tried to shoot him. Somebody
Well,
was
he
listening.
probably was doing it from another position.
Right, right.
But he was not necessarily listening to his.
But he
his-
still
what he did.
understands that
Yeah,
this man is
yeah.
a devil.
Yeah, he's the devil. But what happens is we're going to just have to be our narrative in just going to have to change in how we approach
Yes.
situations, and that's
Yes.
the Democrats I'm talking about.
Yes.
They're just going to have to be more bold in what they
Yes.
do.
Yes.
They're going to have to be more fierce in what they mean, and they're just going to have to be more determined in how
Right,
they
and
present
diligent,
themselves. Yeah,
right.
diligent.
And cross all their
Yeah,
I's.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
T's and dot all their
yeah.
I's because
Because
they
it
make
serves
mistakes.
no purpose,
Right.
particularly the position we're in now,
Right.
to not call a spade,
Right.
or I might say snowflake a snowflake. Use another term. It's to our advantage. It's to our advantage to be very plain and upfront, because if we don't, we're going to find ourselves, well, we've found ourselves now. I don't know what else we could find ourselves in, so maybe we're a little late. Because if we are not
We're
in the
never
midst,
too late, Ruth.
if we're not in the midst of a war, I don't know what we're in.
Yeah.
I don't know what else we could do. This
Right.
should have been dealt with before.
Yes,
but
I
he's
agree.
just doing everything he wants to do, and some of the things I believe he doesn't want to do. I think he is just at a stage now where no one is stopping him for anything, just like a baby with
Right.
candy.
Right.
They may
He's
not want the
dangerous.
candy, but if the candy's in front of them, they take it and eat it. So maybe that's what he's about. He's just doing whatever he's doing.
using ICE,
Yeah.
the military,
Using everything.
in our communities,
Yeah.
overriding the police officers.
Yeah, oh,
Come
sure.
on.
Yeah.
Come on.
I don't know what it is that's going to stop him, but there's something that's got to put a brake on him. And, well, I do know God probably, not probably, well, his plan is not my plan, so I'm not going to get there. I don't know what he plans, but let me say this. I don't have the capacity, the strength, the know-how to stop a person like Trump. So I'm praying that something comes that will stop him
I
in his
believe
trial.
that as long as we stay on it prayerfully, strategically,
Mm-hmm.
and reunite, like you said, we can reinvent. You used, I think, was it Einstein you used? I'm using
Yeah, he
Einstein.
said-
I'm
yeah,
going
he
to come
said that's-
behind you with the same thing.
Yeah, not so smart,
Einstein
just
said
curious.
we cannot solve problems on the same level that they were created. So we're going to have to rise above
Yeah, yeah.
and use wisdom.
Yeah, that's why I'm redirecting our people to see those things that we rightfully so was afraid to get ourselves involved with, like politics, like the law enforcement, like
Yes.
the army, like medicine.
Yes.
We got to see it from a different perspective, because we got to make it. We got to make it. We got to make it work for us.
Right.
Now, how we do that, What you're going to do about it, as Brother Joe Madison said, we got to make it work for us. And the one way we can make it work for us is what we are doing. We are getting involved with all these different entities. You know, we're in the medicine, we're in the police department, we're in the service. Make use of that.
Yes.
And one of the ways to make use of that is in our mind. Reset our mind to be from a village concept. Say we are working for us. We're working for the village. We're working to secure our future.
That's right.
You know, has nothing to do with any hate of anybody else, because that we don't do that.
Right.
We just got to
It's
learn
about
how.
our children,
Yeah,
our
exactly.
future,
Exactly.
our people. It's
Yeah.
time to bring our people back together. We've
Yeah.
been a divided people for too long.
For too long. For too long. There's. I just want to remind my folks again that I have a three-prong approach to this show now, a three-part to this show presentation. But we didn't get a chance to do it today, but we will. There's information that I get off Facebook or wherever, but very pertinent information that need to be talked about, need to see what other folks are saying. That's going to be a segment to our show. Then I'm going to create a segment bringing on news from Africa. There's a lot going on in the continent of Africa. There's good things. There's some issues that we still have to deal with, but there's some good things. And this young man from Burkina Faso, I really got to bring him on. This brother is a combination of Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Sojourner
Really?
Truth. Oh, he's
Definitely.
there. He's excellent. The young man, I think no more than 36, but he talks. He is speaking for Africa. How we're going to reunite that whole continent, and what he's doing in his country of Burkina Faso. He's just a powerful brother. Just power. I know he's God sent, and we just got to pray for him, for his safety, because they've been after him, suicide
that's
attempts
the
and
thing.
everything.
They do.
And but he's not afraid. He speaks truth to power,
Very
and he
good.
speaks, it's for Africa.
Very
So I'm going to
good.
be bringing information from Africa on. That way we'll stay tuned to our homeland, because that's us, our homeland. And then, of course, with the young people, we Rose, my co-host, is the instructor. She teaches them, bring them together on Tuesday to go over their history, and they're learning their history. They're learning the history of their homeland, and we want to share it with you all so we all can learn together. And because that's going to be the most important thing, because if we really don't know what we've done or don't think we can do, we might allow someone like a Donald Trump just to take over and, don't think we have it out
Oh
for him.
boy, when I think of him, I think of Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah, we're going to have to learn how to, because we have dealt with folks like that before. See, that's one of the
Wanna
reasons we
strip
got to know
us.
our history. We got to know how we came through on something much more
Well,
serious than that.
it was something
Yeah.
else, because
Yeah.
even though he stripped them
Yeah.
from their original name,
Right.
took them from, and these were
Yeah.
not just any villagers that
Right,
he took.
right.
He took the cream of the
Exact
crop,
cream of the crop.
and then he stripped them of
Yeah.
their name
Yeah,
and their
everything.
people and everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Because when you think about it, when they brought us over here, when they stole us from our homeland, they stole what we would consider the best and the
Yes,
brightest.
they
And
did.
they weren't just looking for anybody. They looking for
Right.
someone that could come over here and show them how to do whatever they needed to do over here.
Absolutely,
Because we
Ruby.
built everything over here for them.
Absolutely.
So there were queens and kings and royalties
Yes,
that they
and-
brought
yes,
over here.
yes, yes.
That's why on my podcast some months ago, we went through this series of trying to figure out how we can do, well, not trying to figure out, I was telling my folks, my villagers, that how we need to greet each other from here on. So sometimes we look at each other and we'll see things that, we don't like. But always look beyond that, knowing that these are made over people. We are made, my fifth book was supposed to be damaged goods made in America. But we are damaged goods. So, but think about it in terms of where we were 400 and some years ago, before we were snatched and stolen. we were the kings and queens.
And
So if you don't
prominently.
know the person's name, just when you pass them, just say good morning, king.
Yeah, because
Good
you
morning,
really
queen.
don't know
Right, exactly.
their real name.
Exactly. Say good morning, queen. Good morning, king. And think about it from that perspective. Learn to love us in spite of what we might see, because what we might see is a made over of who we were.
Right.
It's not who we
Right.
originally
I like
were.
to say we're a work in progress.
Work in progress.
Yes.
And we're a miracle.
Yes.
We are
Oh, please.
a
Oh,
miracle
please.
standard. I
Definitely.
tell you, with what we have gone through and are still going through,
Right.
there is nothing or no one else in the annals of history that could
Have ever went through what
yeah,
we went
and,
through.
and survive. No, they couldn't have been. Couldn't have done it. And not only are we surviving, we're thriving.
Right,
In
and
many
we're thriving.
instances.
And that's what we have
Uh-huh.
to pass on to our young people,
Yeah.
because we don't know what opposition that they're going to face.
Right. Exactly.
But if they know that we were able to be resilient
yes. Yes.
with whatever they put up against
Yeah.
us, because it's in us.
Yes. Yeah. Because we
In
knew
us.
that of our ancestors.
That's right.
We knew that of the Sojourner Truth.
There you
We
go.
knew that of the Fannie Lou Hamer.
There you
We
go.
knew that of the
There
John
you
Henry
go.
Clarks. We knew that about those who made it, possible for us to be in the position
On
we are
their
in today.
shoulders we stand.
On their shoulder we stand.
Absolutely.
And it's a good shoulder to stand on. Now, what I want to do before I leave here, I just want to thank my crew. Oh, I
Yeah.
want you to bring them up, Norm. I want to
Acknowledge
see
the
them.
villagers,
My
those
villagers,
who tuned in.
yeah. All right. Let me see who this is. Please share. Okay. Betty Jones from Jacksonville, Florida. Robert Cabbage Dog. Joy Jackson, California. Oh, my goodness. Betty Jones, again, Jabbar Saldana, my nephew, Walter Shiver from California. I tell you, just roll them up and good. Look, we're just always glad to know that you're all on board. Robert Cabbage Dog, we're good to know
Yes.
that you're all on board, because that's what keeps us going.
Yep,
you
we
know,
need the support.
And yeah, we need your support. And as I said before, I'm going to say this again. If you like what we're doing, think it's worthwhile and the whole 9 yards, I want you to you can enjoy this program by listening to BKS1 Radio or seeing me in person on Facebook or YouTube. You can bless this program by sending a donation to Cash App, $ Ruby Shivers, Zelle, Ruby Shivers 158 at gmail.com. And we always appreciate it. We're going to acknowledge it at some point, at some time. Don't know when, but we will, because we definitely appreciate it. We know to continue to share the information that we feel is very necessary
Yes,
for us
yes.
to regain what have been taken away from us. It takes an effort. It takes time. It takes concentration. Someone asked me once, "Well, what are you doing at this stage of your life?" Doing a podcast
Hey,
every Monday.
we have
I
to
say
get
it's
the
not
message
because
out.
I say it's not because I'm bored. Believe me, I got grandkids I could be out with, and it's not because I need something to do, but it's something I have to do.
Yes.
I've been planted here on this earth for this particular thing,
For such a time
and I
as
know
this,
for
Ruby.
such a time as this, and we all have a purpose.
Yes.
We all have a
Yes.
purpose in our life.
Yes.
You just got to know what that purpose is and move in that direction. And when we hear the question from our ancestors, say, "What you going to do about it?" we should be in a position. Everybody can't do the same thing, and nobody's trying to do the same thing. Do what you do, but know that you need to do something to move our situation forward. One of the things that we're going to concentrate from here on, again, Trump stole the election, but that's beside the point. We got to vote. We know some of us didn't vote. Now, that is the absolute truth. Some of us didn't vote, but it has nothing to do with that election. But we do know if those of us who will come out and vote, the count would be bigger. It would be harder to
Right.
lose the election.
Right.
You know, and particularly with our local people, we sometimes forget local elections, but those are now the most important. They say all politics are local. When we need certain things, we can go. You know, we know our local elected people that we can go and request whatever it is we need or feel we don't have when we may not be able to reach the top. And this time of our life, we don't need to reach the top because he ain't doing nothing but ruining everything that we ever set forth to do, to put forward. But
I still say he's a devil. He's come
You-
to kill, steal, and destroy.
yeah, I'm convinced of that. I really am because I've not seen anyone like him. I
No.
really haven't. I really haven't seen anyone
just,
like
just
him.
the arrogance, the level of the arrogance is uncanny. Like
And
I've
what
never seen.
and what excites him is
Yeah.
interesting. If you notice how he made the announcement about what he just did with the bombing and things,
Yeah,
it's like a game.
that's what I'm saying. The level of arrogance
Yeah,
is so
yeah.
illogical.
And I wonder from is it arrogant? I believe the man just don't have no brain. I believe he's like the what that movie that was out. I don't have brains.
Frankenstein.
No, you know the little
Which one?
Donna Ross played in.
Oh, you to mahogany?
No,
Which one? With Diana Ross?
No, the little imps and thing that was running around.
Oh, Wizard of Oz.
Wizard,
He was the wizard.
the wizard. Yeah, no brain.
Old
Yeah,
fool.
I really believe that.
The wizard.
So, my villagers, I'm so pleased that you all joined us and you just stick with us and I encourage us, and that's what you're doing, and we appreciate you. We really do. And we're going to be seeing you next week. Now, next week, we're going to have the young folks on. They will be displaying their knowledge of who they are and whose they are.
Yes.
And they are excited about it. We're excited about it, and we hope you are excited about
Yes.
it.
Yes.
So, God bless you,
Yes.
and take care. See you the next time.